Hello everyone, my name is James Winter and I'm the VP of Marketing here at Brandfolder. Brandfolder is an intuitive digital asset management platform that recently joined the Smartsheet family of products, and we could not be more excited to show you all what it can do for you today. We're going to go over a quick little introduction to Brandfolder as a company and as a product, and then we're going to dive into a pretty detailed demo so you can see exactly how it works. I like to cue this up by asking customers, where does your brand live? For a lot of companies, this is a difficult question to answer. And when we ask this question, we mean, what about all of the assets that make up your brand, such as photos, videos, logos, fonts, PowerPoints, PDFs, all these things that your customers engage with? A lot of companies have these distributed across a ton of different platforms like cloud storage or internal servers or shared drives or SharePoint or any number of a hodgepodge of solutions that makes it very difficult for them to attain brand consistency across all of their different touch points and channels. In the last couple decades, things have accelerated dramatically in the speed of marketing and creative development. The old way of managing these assets through servers and shared drives and cloud storage don't really cut it anymore. Teams are under more pressure than ever to deliver great results, often in a much shorter time period. This can often lead to a disorganized and disjointed, poorly structured digital asset management program. Many of the companies that we talk to have similar problems with poor organization of assets, where people often don't know where to find things. Key brand assets such as their photos and videos and all of these things that power their marketing machine are distributed across difficult to use systems and are very difficult to locate. Oftentimes these assets also aren't in the right format for the use case, whereas you don't need a raw file to put on social media, but you need the original version somewhere easily accessible so you can easily reformat it for a different use case. Lots of companies struggle with having an easy way to distribute these assets, not only internally, but with all of their external partners as well, who are just as important. And oftentimes, these brands don't have a way to measure how these assets are being used or where. As a result of this, there's a huge loss of productivity in these companies where high-powered individuals in the marketing and creative worlds are spending a ton of time doing things that don't add value to the organization, like responding to requests for emails or emails about where to find certain assets. This leads to a loss of productivity, damage to the brand when people use things that they shouldn't be or create assets that aren't approved. It slows down the time that you can launch campaigns in. And the lack of measurement really makes it difficult for people to make intelligent decisions about which assets to invest in the future. And underlying all of that is a security concern where you don't really know who's using your asset or whether they should have access to it. And that leads us to what a DAM does. A digital asset management platform helps you organize, discover new assets, control the assets, distribute them to all of your third-party partners, internal stakeholders, and everyone else that touches your brand, and then measure how all of those are being used. Brandfolder helps by protecting and lifting your brand as a centralized source of truth that's extremely easy for anyone to use without any training required. When you put a new user into Brandfolder, it's super simple for them to just go in and find exactly what they need without having to waste anyone else's time. One of the things that we hear often from brands that we talk to is that they have designers who spend up to 10 hours a week just responding to requests for assets that people should be able to find on their own. We also give end users a way to manipulate brand assets in an on-brand fashion where they have certain constraints that they can do things in to be more self-service. We also have built-in rights management to help alleviate legal troubles. And all of this allows people to have a solution that's modern, flexible, secure, and intuitive, and it integrates with all of the tools that you already use on a daily basis. We have integrations with a few dozen different platforms. Over the last few years, we've been so fortunate to partner with hundreds of companies who have entrusted us with their digital assets, and we've seen amazing results with the return on investment that they've been able to get from using us. Brandfolder has helped them streamline their creative process, distribute their assets wherever they need to go around the world, and given them a more efficient way to get campaigns to market. As we partner with Smartsheet, we can't wait to see what people come up with next. Now, let's take a look at what the product can do with Kenneth Herta.
These are the core pillars or DAM logistics that will guide our demonstration today. I'll show you how you can easily organize your asset content in a way that's intuitive for end users to discover assets very quickly. We'll see how you can control your assets to ensure they're brand consistent throughout their entire life cycle. We'll also show how you can very quickly and easily distribute assets with share links, collections, and our content delivery network. And of course, how you can measure, gain insights on asset performance and user activity throughout all of the assets inside of your DAM. Moving over to the platform. To start, this is our portals page. Portals are a great entry point or landing page for your end user groups. In this case, we're looking at Sonata, which is a fake luxury travel brand that we use for demo purposes. This use case shows how anybody at Sonata Corporate can come to a homepage portal, and each of these tiles links into a different location in the DAM in this case. We could go reference our brand guidelines and style guidelines. We could jump right into generally approved brand assets. Or maybe we work for a specific team, in which case this will bring us into our own environment where we can work on working files or quickly access sales collateral. At the bottom, we have dynamic widgets that are showing featured assets based on a tag inside the asset library, recently created and top scoring assets based on Brandfolder scoring algorithms. And then, of course, we can link out to other portals. Portals can be really helpful for other user groups, maybe even infrequent users of the DAM, so that you give them this nice personalized homepage experience before they actually click into the DAM. Clicking into the asset library, now we're in the what we call the brand folder. And as a description of our account hierarchy and what we call permissible objects, taking a quick step back or up, we're now at the organization level. So every brand folder customer has an organization. Underneath that, you can have what we call brand folders. In this world, Sonata is a holding company that manages many different brands. They also have their portals or their brand guides or style guides accessed in here. And this is a view that a super user can have. However, each brand folder is its own permissible object. So you can add specific users just at the brand folder level. And when they log in, that's all they see. Multiple brand folders are often used for multi-brand environments, or other common use cases are having a work in progress brand folder that is going through work in progress asset content with our Adobe Creative Cloud connector that eventually gets moved into a general brand folder that's available for more downstream users. Additionally, nested underneath the brand folder is what we call the collection. The collection is an excellent place to share content with external or internal user groups in an isolated way. Whenever you add a user to a collection, when they log in, they only see the assets that exist in that collection. They don't know the brand folder exists or anything around it exists. And collections and brand folders share a parent-child relationship in the sense that you can add a single asset to as many collections as you'd like. For instance, to your sales team, to your retailers, maybe to photographers and agencies that you're working with. And you can still manage that asset in the single location of the brand folder. Whether it's updating a tag or updating the version of the asset itself, it will propagate out to all the collections. So diving back into the brand folder and taking a quick look at users, we'll see how this is where each of those permissible objects show up, and users can be associated to the organization, the brand folder, and then of course the collection. When you add a user to the collection, again, when they log in, they will only see that collection. They won't know anything else exists. And as far as user roles, we have admins, collaborators, and guests. Admins are power users. They can manage settings, approve new users, approve content, do a lot of other things. Collaborators are content contributors. They can upload, add tags, move things to collections, but don't have some of the admin rights. And guests are view and download only. One thing that is fairly unique to Brandfolder is we do always offer free and unlimited guest user seats. We never want a customer to have to make a business decision on whether they need to purchase a new seat just to share asset content. So guest users are secure logged in users that admins will have insights on inside their analytics, and guest users can also edit templates with our templating tool, which I'll show you here towards the end of our demo. Worth noting, we also do connect with single sign-on through SAML so that you can have all of your users log in with the click of a button. Now, diving into the brand folder and really honing in on that first pillar of organize and organizing your asset content. This is primarily done at the brand folder level. So here we have the Sonata asset library. You'll notice it is fully brandable from the header, logo, favicon. The URL can be changed, the colors and the fonts can be adjusted, and that's all out of the box in the settings. When we scroll down, we'll get into our assets very quickly. You'll notice some navigation tools here at the top. Before we cover that, just a quick view at the user interface. And you'll notice that we keep everything very visual, very intuitive. As you scroll through, you'll see a lot of thumbnails. We auto thumbnail over 200 file types, everything you might expect from typical images, videos, and documents, to all of your working files like AI, PSD, SVG, TIFF, INDD. We also support more unique files like animated GIFs, 360 viewers, 3D assets. We could pull in YouTube videos, and we of course support all brand elements such as logos, colors, fonts, and even free text information. Now, of course, as your brand folder scales, you need more than just being able to scroll through the brand folder to see assets. So that's where many of these navigation tools come into play. And just to start, Brandfolder is uniquely designed to not use the typical folder subfolder structure. We see that that tends to create a lot of problems and duplication over time. Instead, what we use primarily for that vertical nested taxonomy structure is what we call labels. Admins can set up labels, and this works similarly to Gmail labels if you're familiar, but you can essentially just associate assets with these subnests, and then when you click into the subnest, you're now just looking at assets that have been associated with it. So this is very helpful when you have a taxonomy you need to build out and then allow end users to navigate by that taxonomy. You'll see now we're in this campaign Banff awareness Q1, and we're just seeing a very small subset of assets that in there. Now, in addition to labels, we also have a couple other things. Here at the top is what we call sections. Assets always get uploaded to a section in Brandfolder. Generally, they are defined by some content type. So we're seeing, in this case, videos, templates, social media, assets, ads, YouTube videos will show up here, logos, people, etc. So very quick and easy just to jump into a content type. And as you probably noticed, as I scrolled through, the section always remained with me on the page, so I kind of know where I am as far as what I'm looking at. Underneath sections, we have what we call pins. Pins are saved searches. This is super useful just to create a quick shortcut for end users based on some common search query. In this case, we're just showing featured content, and my search query is showing every asset that has been tagged as featured. So now I'm very quickly able to see all that featured content that maybe the creative or marketing team wants to promote. This can also be helpful for pinning and making it easy to find more complicated search queries, such as this expiring date range. Our search is designed to be intuitive enough for end users to use, as well as powerful enough for super users to use to create very complex queries. On the intuitive side, you'll see that we have several operators. So if we just dropped in a general term here, we could select from any of these to use Boolean logic or a more high recall or more strict search result. Very useful if you have IDs, for instance, that you're searching on. However, also, when you start typing, you'll get some suggestions. This is based on all the tags and the taxonomy and the metadata that exists inside of the brand folder. So if I'm looking for assets that have beach related imagery or something in there, I can go ahead and use that tag suggestion. And now I'm looking at all assets across all my sections that have been tagged as beach. Now, I could also get a little more complex and say, I'm actually looking for every asset that is tagged as beach and is also a video. I could drop in an and operator and get those few assets that meet both of those multi-syntax criteria. So we do support Boolean logic, synonyms, wildcards, exclusions. Search can be as complicated or I should say as robust as you'd like it to be, and we have all of those documented. And this is where pins really come in handy because you can pin a complicated search, have it featured at the top for all users to access very quickly. Last thing on the point and click side of finding assets is, of course, out of the box filters. So this will allow you to see tags, see file types. Custom fields are another metadata structure we allow that allows you to add a key and a value so that you can quickly filter on more custom criteria to your asset classifications and metadata schema. And then you can filter by orientation. For instance, if I just am looking for all my vertical facing things, since I'm looking for a mobile image, free text SKU search, where you can just paste a bunch of unstructured SKU data and filter based on matches there. And then, of course, an upload date range. So the Brandfolder is designed so that any end user, regardless of their path to discovering content, can come in and quickly find things on their terms. Um, each of these mechanisms, from labels to search to pins, can be used interoperably. So one user might come in and start with a label and then maybe perform a search so that they can basically get the mountain related video inside the digital campaign in this case. Other users might just go right to search and click on sections to define down into the assets they're looking for. So we have a few benchmarks here that basically just ensure that we are tracking how quickly users are accessing assets. We feel that an end user needs to be able to find what they're looking for in 5 clicks or less. After that benchmark, they will typically abandon the platform and go email somebody or ask for that content instead of finding it on their own in the DAM. We also attempt to maintain a 1 to 1.5 view to download ratio. That means that every 1.5 times end users are downloading and finding what they're looking for. And we do maintain those metrics, and a lot of our design is geared towards enhancing our user experience to that end. So that covers the first couple pillars as far as organization and discovery. And it is worth noting here that all of this is very configurable. Admins can change sections, move them around, have as many or as few as you'd like, rename them. All of the labels are managed through the bulk management section by admins. Pins are saved by editable users. This can all be adjusted over time as well. And we do go through an onboarding process where we help our customers fit their assets into the structure, build it out in a way that makes the most sense based on their assets and their use cases and their audiences. And we'll even do user testing to ensure end users are finding and able to adopt the DAM with no prior training very easily. Additionally, on the user configuration side, we have view options. So end users can configure their view if they'd like more of a list view with tags on the page. You could show custom fields to see those keys and values alongside that. Those can even appear on the thumbnail view alongside the asset. And we also, our multi-language asset details feature allows you to actually input languages, asset details in multiple languages within a single asset. So you can kind of think of it as different lenses in the asset itself. In this case, I have all of these assets that have English titles, custom fields, tags, descriptions. If I actually switch, it looks like in this case, Sonata has made Italian and French available. If I'm an Italian speaking user, I can switch my view to Italian, and now we'll see all the titles, the custom fields, the descriptions, and asset names have actually been translated to Italian. So our DAM actually allows admins to input multiple languages of details in a single asset and then allow end users to filter and view based on their preferences. And on that note, the application itself comes in multiple languages so that, excuse me, any end user can actually access the application in a different translation. Cool. So we have talked about organize and discover. Let's dive into that third pillar or area called control. And to do that, let's take a deeper look at the asset and start with this logo. In this case, we have our asset container, and you'll see it's much more dynamic than your typical file. Our asset container works as a container for multiple what we call attachments, but in this case it's files. And in this case, our designer has given us many different renditions of a logo. And alongside that, she's given us usage guidelines so that we know how to use each one of these logos and when not to use them. This is through the description area of the assets. Additionally, here we're going to see tags and custom fields. These are what make the assets searchable. These are indexed for search, and then, of course, make them classified. Every dotted line tag is added by AI on initial ingestion. Every bolded line one was added either by a human in the platform or by an existing folder structure, which Brandfolder always remembers folders and subfolders as tags on ingest. Going back over to the files, one of the core functionalities is being able to control for brand consistency, but also enable the end user to get the file that they need. So in this case, I could download this all out as a zip logo kit, or I could download each of these files individually. And one of the really great features for creatives or marketers is that end users can quickly convert and get a file type and a aspect ratio or width and height that they need. This is always aspect ratio controlled. So it is a brand consistent, quality controlled conversion. This is helpful. In this case, we have a bunch of different renditions already, but let's say you just had the one high res version, like an EPS or an AI file, and you simply wanted to self service allow end users to get that raster format in the size that they need. You can always ensure it's going to be in the right aspect ratio. You can set max widths and heights. You can have some of these presets that allow for small, medium, large, and that allows that self-service control in a brand consistent way. Now we also have a more robust cropping tool that does the same, but is more related to imagery. If we pull up one of these assets, you'll see how some of the auto tags are more relevant for imagery, high quality imagery, where a lot of these can be searched on to find this image. And then our custom fields are more geared towards rights management campaign information. Now in the export options section, we have the ability to custom crop or interact with social media presets. Brandfolder manages and provides these social media presets for you, so you don't have to actually remember them. This is something your social team will love, so they don't have to constantly be referring to social media specs and creating a bunch of different renditions. Brandfolder will go ahead and allow you to do this on the fly. And then once the end user downloads this out, it gets downloaded to the user's machine. The original image remains intact inside the Brandfolder. Additionally, admins can upload custom presets. So if you are often creating many different renditions for your owned and operated properties, maybe hero images for your website, maybe newsletter images for your emails, or even ad placements across your display properties, you can add these as custom presets and make those quickly available. All of these are also available through our content delivery network, which I'll cover here shortly once we get into the distribution section. I'm going to turn my custom fields back off for this collapsed view. Now, a couple other things we're going to do in the asset is extract all metadata. So all of the embedded metadata will come right out. And let's go over to another example here where we'll see that in the embedded or the extracted metadata, we'll extract the dominant color palette. Any EXIF or IPTC metadata will get extracted and be indexed. You can also create metadata conversion rules in Brandfolder to instantly convert a metadata field into a Brandfolder tag or custom field. And that allows you to use those in other places in the app, such as our rules engine, which lets you set up if-then rules that move content around for you. So that can really automate the organization and the distribution of your assets at scale as you start to get many assets in here and a lot of information. Additionally, on the asset is we're going to show visually similar and duplicate assets. So in the similar tab, this is actually based on a machine learning model where we're looking at both the image composition, the auto tags, and your tags over time. So you can actually start to influence these results. In this case, we're seeing a lot of coastal, maybe sunset imagery based on the composition, but we can influence these results over time as we tag our assets. Additionally, we have a recommendation engine, very similar to if you're shopping online and you see that other customers bought this, this is doing that for your assets. So it's surfacing assets that are most often used together. If you think of atomic design, where many assets are often used for a single piece of creative, this can be helpful for designers even to see what are other designers using inside of their pieces of creative. But it can also be used to for your end users to discover content that didn't previously exist or that they didn't know previously existed. So if you think about value and benefit, you can really create content less, reuse existing content more, and save money and time by end users being able to use some of these recommendation and discovery uh, mechanisms. And Brandfolder, it tends to be very high adoption rates, very high renewal rates. So end users will come to the dam, be familiar with it, be able to find assets that already exist, and really save your team time and money by creating new things all the time. Cool. So moving over into the distribution pillar, one of the key ways that we offer the ability to share assets is with a simple share link. So if I'm in here and selecting a few assets, which I can do by selecting the whole section, or I could simply uncheck some, I can use my shift key to hold and select others. And I'm just going to select a few assets across a few sections here. Now you'll see my bulk toolbar available at the bottom. You can do many things in batch mode in Brandfolder, including enabling availability and expiration dates. Any asset that is what we call a non-available state, which could be draft, expired, or pending, will only be visible to admins in the Brandfolder. End users will not see it. So that's really helpful to maintain that brand consistency as well as manage your rights associated to your assets over time. Additionally, you can move assets around into other sections or other brand folders. You can, of course, tag in bulk, and you can add custom fields in bulk. If you think about metadata management, this is a great place to essentially provide a controlled custom field schema and allow end users to select from the same keys and values across certain asset pairs. All of this can be done in bulk to many assets at a time. You can also do this through an Excel download, which is fairly unique to Brandfolder. You can go ahead and export a CSV, get all of the details as far as the asset names, the descriptions, the tags, the custom fields that exist inside of that CSV, and then make those changes inside of Excel for many assets at a time and upload it right back into the DAM. Now, going back to the share and distribution pillar, sharing is very easy. So grabbing a share link, let's say maybe this is a campaign kit for an upcoming campaign. You have settings here as well. You could go ahead and make it private. If you leave it public, you can ask for an email address so you can still track who's accessing it in your insights. You can disable download functionality, in which case Brandfolder will offer a download request flow. So the assets will be view only until somebody requests them and an admin can approve or deny them. And then you can, of course, expire the link altogether at a certain date and time. Now, if we check this out in a non-logged in view, we'll see that this is our share link presentation. This is a non-logged in user. So you get that familiar download all button that you see with other file transfer mechanisms, but we also see all of our asset thumbnails. We're able to actually click in and view previews. We haven't looked at video yet, but Brandfolder allows you to stream, create web streamable versions. It also allows you to convert video in a similar way that we showed conversion on images. In this case, you can convert into different file formats and resolutions and also do some clipping and watermarking before downloading. But this is a really great way just to share content very easily for users that don't necessarily have to be users of the DAM. Additionally, any availability will be inherited here. So if an asset actually moved into an expired state or an unapproved state, it would be removed automatically from this share link. So share links are one way to share content. Another way is collections. And we mentioned collections at the top of the call or the demo, but the idea with collections is you can create essentially subsets of assets for user groups over time where they just have an isolated view. So in Sonata's world, maybe they have a Banff office. Banff team logs into their own collection that's tailored and branded to them. And in this case, they only see a subset of the assets from the brand folder. A user in this environment would only see the assets that relate presumably to Banff and their content that they're using. And all of the sections, pins, labels actually get inherited from the assets that were added to this collection. So collections are very commonly used for things like interacting with agencies, retailers, wholesalers, and distributors. Even different languages of content. Maybe you have your EMEA, APAC regions, or very specific different regions. You can bucket those groups into collections and make that very easily available. And adding assets to collections is as simple as selecting those assets and add to collection. And as I mentioned earlier, you can add many assets to many collections, and you're never duplicating that content. You can continue to manage the core asset directly from the authority asset itself inside of the brand folder. Now, a couple other things that fall a little bit outside some of those core pillars, but are worth looking at. And actually, the last kind of one in our distribution pillar before we move to that is what we call our content delivery network. This is a really great functionality. It allows us to grab a CDN link and then use that to publish or distribute that asset to any owned and operated property that you have, whether it's your website, your CMS platform, your ecom platform, your Marcom platform for emails, or even more unique use cases like your intranets or other things. What's nice about these is they allow all of the typical CDN optimization transformations. So you can actually use the auto format to serve WebP on Chrome, but PNG in other browsers. You'll see that when we do this, we're simply adding different parameters on the URL. You can also do resizing, crops, conversions, and also search queries to find different assets organized together. And you'll see how that actually adds parameters. If I were to then plug that into the browser, Brandfolder might create the new file and the new rendition that I'm asking for very quickly since it's happening through CDN. Whenever you use CDN links, we'll actually show you some of that data. So this helps us transition to that last pillar of measure. If we look at one of these assets where we know it's published on the web, we have a little blue icon over here in the usage tab. The usage tab is going to show us views, downloads, and shares over time, as well as trends over the last 30 days. We'll do some asset scoring, which will give you a benchmark across all of your other assets. So you can start to essentially have a benchmark across all those assets and how they're performing. And then if we scroll down, we'll see all share links as well as CDN links that this has been added to. The CDN links are awesome because you can basically tell the domain and the pages that this asset's actually published on the web. You can even see last visited and status information. So this helps you not only know where the asset is managed in the DAM, but also where it's distributed to on the web. And then if we were to jump into our View Insights tool, this is going to take us right into our Insights platform. And we're looking at the asset level since I clicked into it from the asset level, but let's take a step back to the brand folder level. And now we're looking at things at the library or the brand folder. So insights are great. They allow you out of the box to track your views, downloads, and shares. You can also see top performers as far as assets and users start to bubble up here. If you wanted to drill into a user and see specifically what Crane is accessing in this account, this is great for user governance, making sure users are actually accessing the content you're sharing with them, or just understanding what your users are accessing most. And you can filter that by views, downloads, and shares. We also now see a real-time event feed over here of Crane's activity. And another really great thing we'll do out of the box is show you search queries. So you can actually, inside of the DAM, and let's go back to the brand folder level, we'll see what folks are searching for. And if we look on the view all searches, this is actually a search query report. So tying this all back together to the organize and discover pillars, you can use insights to understand how users are searching in the DAM and then use that to inform your organization structure so that you're enabling them to find and discover content more seamlessly, more effectively, and efficiently. You can also use this potentially to fill content gaps. Maybe end users are searching for assets that don't even exist or that you haven't created. So you can maybe use that as cues and signals to improve content in certain areas. So those are really the core pillars we plan to cover today. Brandfolder does extend into a couple other areas. One in particular that I'll end with is templating. Templating allows your designers to create design quality on brand templates, and then enable end users a form to edit those criteria. And so in this case, we have this form. Let's say we wanted to localize this to Banff from Florence. We can start selecting from predefined dropdowns. This can also just be free text inputs. You can have validations such as rows and character limits. Maybe I input my email and my information. And then the images connect directly with the DAM and they can be search query restricted. So in this case, in the header section, I'm only seeing a few assets that are tagged as header that have been approved as available here. The crop tool is there, but I'm just going to go ahead and select that asset. And now when we refresh, we'll actually see all those changes come directly in here. It adopts all the styles, colors, fonts, placements directly from the template, so it's brand consistent design quality. End user could then have this go through an approval flow so that admins will be notified that this is ready for approval before it can be downloaded out. And then if that is actually turned off, we'll actually see the output like we do here. End users could then download the print-friendly, web-friendly version of this. There's also the optional abilities to save back to the Brandfolder or send a print request. And worth noting that this works for digital assets as well, such as ad placements, social media ads. A lot of different use cases here. It can be supported in different languages as well. And you can essentially allow a lot higher fidelity of creating marketing collateral and creative for end users at a much more efficient rate, enabling some self-service control for those user groups that are typically non-designers that you wouldn't necessarily want customizing your creative. So we love that functionality. That also actually allows for video templating through an integration we have with StoryTech. And to wrap up, one key thing that we didn't cover but is worth noting here quickly is that we do offer full version control. You can have a version history, admins can restore versions. There is a comments and annotations feature here that you can tag users with. So there is collaboration in here. These all generate notifications and triggers that would allow users to collaborate with each other on workflows. And then finally, we do connect with many other tools, including the Creative Cloud, in which Brandfolder designer users can actually locate assets inside their Brandfolder, either through a navigation or search view, find those assets, open them inside Photoshop, Illustrator, InDesign, After Effects, or Premiere, and then, for instance, make changes and keep them updated back into the Brandfolder with version control. So thanks for listening. In sum, Brandfolder really offers you a lot of mechanisms to enable the quick and easy organization, discovery, control, distribution, and measurement of your content. And it also extends into some other areas that really help enterprise companies as well as smaller businesses manage their assets more effectively with brand consistency and enabling end users to quickly find things and share them self-service. Thank you.